So our first speaker is Allanna Pettigrew from Banff, Alberta. Allanna is a tireless volunteer who demonstrates how kindness and community support can lead to social change. In September 2016, Allanna began working with local grocers and other suppliers to save any food that would otherwise have been thrown into the dumpster, and so created Banff Food Rescue. In addition to supplying, collecting, and sorting this food, Allanna offered a daily pickup service from the basement of her home. Through this program, food is redistributed to those in need, and the program also supports various local programs such as Parent Link, Community Lunch, and the Food Bank, Hope for Kids, and numerous community fundraisers. Allanna is also a founding member of the Bow Valley Food Alliance, an organization that advocates for sustainable food systems and healthy, accessible, and affordable food for all. Allanna is the winner of a 2017 Star of Alberta Award and a 2018 Bow Valley Women of Distinction Award. Her work also won a 2018 Communities Choose Well Most Significant Change for the town of Banff. So let's welcome Allanna to the front, and she will share her story with us.
I'm just wondering if that can come off, or just being tall, it's sometimes hard to sit. Good morning. Thanks to everyone for coming. Today is what day? There you go, International Women's Day. So it's a great honor to be asked to come here. I'm a little nervous, you might be able to tell. Thank you. Just thank you for being here, having an interest in what's happening, how we can change community, and I hope you can take a little bit of what I've done in my community to help yours. So here's Banff Food Rescue. And I've got a few slides. I think what you'll see from the slides is the excitement, the interest, the engagement, and the impact. I don't have, like some amazing university degree and therefore big presentation. I am who I am. You never know what I will say, so pardon me ahead of time. I will tell you that everything this has done for our community has done even more for me. So, sorry. I'm a little emotional, right? I'm just that person. So, Banff Food Rescue, that's not our logo at the moment. In fact, yesterday I finalized a logo. Because we have such great community involvement, my logo has been provided to me by the Banff Lodging Company. So there's costs involved, costs that I would otherwise not be able to afford to do. So sorry, that's not my logo, but it's coming. So here's just a great example of what happens. This is my Friday team. So Friday, these individuals come to the home and they distribute the food that we've gotten earlier in the day. What I should do is, first of all, tell you when I started this, we were getting food each and every single day. I don't even know how I did this. I think I was insane. Honest to God, I've got a severely handicapped sister, and I would put her in the car, and we would drive to the grocery store, and we would pick up, and she was so excited because, let's be honest, she likes her junk food. So if there were Danishes in the back of the car, she'd be looking back like, I want one of those. I'm like, okay, wait till we get home. So I'd take her downstairs, and she would watch me sort. And I have to tell you, I did this all on my own, 80 hours a week. I was insane. I don't know how I did it. So I would sort it, I'd put it out. I worked 20 years in the grocery industry, so I knew what was being thrown out. I also worked 5 years in hotel industry, and I had seen the waste. I had also volunteered for 4 years at the Banff Food Bank, and I'd seen that the fit wasn't there. So the food bank, people get bags of things, and they're not really appropriate in my humble opinion. And the reason I'm saying that is quite often it's food that they're already only barely able to afford. Those are canned goods such as beans, things like macaroni and cheese. They already get that. So there's a level of dignity that I thought was lacking, and I just wanted to do more. So here's what I thought of. I thought, there's food waste. There's people that need food. The food doesn't need to go into landfill. So let's not allow that to happen. So over time, it was no longer Nicole and I, and thank God, or I wouldn't be able to do it. Nicole's my sister, because she has progressively gotten worse. So I can't get her out of the house anymore, so I have volunteers. My problem with volunteers, and I have the worst problem with volunteers. I'm sure you all have problems with volunteers. Mine is the worst. I'm not kidding, and it's a good problem to have, because they complain that they do not have the opportunity to volunteer. All my volunteer slots are full. I never have to worry about who's picking up. I never have to worry who's coming on Friday night. I make a calendar, and if I'm not careful, someone discovers that I've made a volunteer calendar, and they jump on it before I release it publicly. It's horrible. These people will tell you it's terrible, and you know why? I did a schedule for December. These are my Friday night volunteers. And somebody, one of those bad volunteers, one of those sneaky ones, discovered that I had opened up the calendar. So they told everyone else. And my Friday night volunteers came on the last Friday that they were scheduled for in November and said, "Are you mad at us? What goes on? We're not scheduled for Fridays anymore." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "The schedule's full." I'm like, I haven't even released the schedule publicly. How can it be full? Lo and behold, I checked, and it was full. And I said, you know, it's an okay thing to happen, because it gives an opportunity to others to volunteer. But when I do January, February, and March, will you guarantee me that you're going to be available for Fridays? Well, of course, why wouldn't we be? So that's my Friday volunteers. I have a really nice cross-section of people. This lady's a Filipino lady that's lived in our town for a very long time. On the other side of her is Hitomi. She's a little Japanese girl, and she's sweet as pie. And the other two are a couple, and they're from Slovakia. And we have many, many different people come to Banff because it's a very fluid or somewhat transient community. If they have to move on at some point, I'll be really sad. They're like kids to me. Now, I don't know how well these pictures show, but I'm hoping you can see them fairly well. The lady on the left, lo and behold, she's from the hospital, gave me a call. They had a meeting. They had sandwiches that were prepared but never used or put out. So I was able to accept those. Those sandwiches came and fed quite a few young people. The young people come and they're hungry at the door and they just eat right away. I have to remind them to wash the food before you eat it. These two right here, this is Rob and Sue Chuck. They are amazing volunteers. They come every Wednesday. So the thing about the volunteers is that they have expectations. They want to be invested in the program. They have an energy that I would no longer have. I don't have 80 hours a week to give. I'm tired. I'm worn out. I was insane. What can I tell you? So here's just a little snapshot of what we get. So we get all kinds of things from the grocery store, things that would otherwise go in the landfill. You have to realize that as a culture, as a society, we kind of perpetuate waste, to be honest. So even though things are still okay, they end up going into the garbage because we want perfection. When you go to the bread aisle, we want to see a full shelf. If there is one loaf on that shelf, left, because in Banff we're busy. No one takes the last loaf. No one takes the last loaf. There must be something wrong with that last loaf. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm also pleased to report that we get a lot of organics. And why? Because it's so expensive. People won't buy the organics. So the organics come to me. I have a ton of young people that are vegan, and typically they are looking for those awesome organic products. Veganism is on the rise, let me tell you, or in my little part of the world it is. On this right-hand side, these are my Monday girls. And so they're amazing. They bring things in. The boxes aren't nice when we get them. They're really not. We have to pick through. Sometimes you just get lettuce pieces or cuttings from onions, and you know, you wonder why you even got it sometimes, but you have to realize that the spin-off is what's in the box down below. They're always hiding the good stuff. We have cheese that comes in. We have dairy. I have all kinds of support from the store. The employees are bought into the program. They want to make sure we get everything possible. Even the store managers, they tell me they don't have people jumping in the dumpster anymore because it's coming to me. So that's just awesome. Like, how is that not a bad thing? It's a good thing. It's a great thing. And nobody has to endanger themselves by jumping into the dumpster. So that's a real good trade-off. Hey, come to my house and I'll give you food. And by the way, you get to come and have a bit of social support. The way that works is I have a little dog, and these peers that are downstairs, it's peer-to-peer support. They don't want this little old lady downstairs telling them, oh, take this, do that. They talk to each other, they share recipes, they find employment, they find housing through each other. It's an amazing catalyst for change and to be able to connect with each other. Oftentimes young people are lonely. They've never been away from home. They come to Banff. Banff's beautiful, but underneath we have a lot of problems. And it's the unseen problems that exist. So anyway, back to my little dog. I sit on the stairs while the action's going downstairs. But believe me, I watch who's coming in. And they come and oh, can I pet your dog? Oh, he's so cute. I miss my dog at home. And I'm like, how's your day going? So what's going on? And moreover, I can find what's going on. And I find ways to help. And it's not about the food. It's never about the food. It's about social support or net that exists. Because I'm very well connected with the ladies at the town of Banff. This is 100% volunteer job. I'm not getting paid to do this. Again, I reiterate, I'm crazy, but sometimes crazy's good. We helped a young man that unfortunately was missing. I don't know if any of you may have seen the big billboard that Jimmy Pattison had put up. They were looking for a young man named Willie Linsky. He came to our house. We helped him out. We had no idea he was missing. I met his mom. Unfortunately, he had a very tragic end. But she felt peace knowing that my husband and I helped him. So going on, I gotta tell you about these girls. They're wild. I'm gonna go over my time, I'm sure. Anyway, now that I've relaxed a little, hey. This is Mari, and she's like a firecracker. And you could tell, right? So they're sorting things through, and in the middle is Natsu, and the other girl is Kazui. And they all come together. Sometimes they're off to Japan because that's what they do, but one at a time only. I don't allow them to go together. So anyway, they come and they do the sort, and they are ladies that work at the hospital. They are LPNs and NAs. And the one lady is just, just and not just. I don't take anything away from her, but she's doing cleaning at the hospital. If anything, that's one of the hardest jobs I could recognize is cleaning. So anyway, they come, They do the job, they clean up the compost, and they get it out of the house, and away they go. And like that. So no more issues for my manpower, my time, my sister, but I have a connection with them. I've made friends. I was isolated, right? I was at home with my sister, my husband worked away, my kids left. How dare they get on with their lives? So here's my Friday team again. This is on our Facebook page. So I have a Facebook page. That's how we communicate. And what happens is I post every day what we have available. And those kids, they take their phones and they go like this. And they look closer. And they see there's orange juice. And they see that there's cheese. And they come to my house an hour before it opens. It is freezing cold. And they are standing outside. So, and that's the part I really don't like. That's the negative. They seem to decide that it's okay because it's worth it. I have a hard time with that. Here we are delivering groceries to AHCS school, and I have 5 minutes left, so God help me. Anyway, the ice field is open up in the summer from May until I think it's October, and they had leftover food. Things that were frozen, never used, completely safe. And we didn't know what to do with it because I don't have enough freezer space. But the extra school has an opportunity. They have at least a 90% Aboriginal participants, as in students. The lady Carly here that is their cook, what happens is she makes nutritious meals for them because the meals that they get at school are probably the only ones they're going to have. On the weekends, they usually don't have anything to eat, which is really sad. But, you know, we're working together on it, and obviously so is she. She's very committed. And here is one of my very first pictures of our lineup. This is not what you see anymore. I laugh at my old pictures. We had like a table with a few things on it, and one fridge full, and now I have 2 big fridges and a freezer, and I've had to find more tables, and I filled up my back room in my house, and I'm exploding because there's not enough room. So we're looking for space, and that's a challenge in Banff because space is at a premium. So these girls, well, they're waiting, they're out there an hour ahead, and I really didn't like that. Why? Because I have 3 dogs, and they look out the door, and they're and I have to pull my curtains, and I go, why are they here so early? You know what? They're here for what they need. And I had to change my mindset and say, they're here for what they need. Shut my curtains so my dogs wouldn't bark anymore, accept the fact that they were there. If we could get done sooner, as in prepared for the evening shift, I would let them in, even if it was cold. One last thing I want to just mention is that we also have a winter clothing program. I didn't create it. A friend of mine said, hey, Allanna, you said people come and they have bare feet because they have to take their shoes off at my front door. They have bare feet, they come in, and how can we support that? Well, one of the church groups helped me with that. They bring socks, and the whole point of what I'm doing too, that I don't want to miss, is this is for everyone. Anyone can come to my door. You don't show me your ID. You don't tell me your situation. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't matter. So sometimes changing the focal point is really what's important. So in the front, you have people that need help. And in the back, there's kids that just want to do recycling and feel good. And let's be honest, they want to be able to save up for that snowboard, so why spend money at the grocery store? So focus on the people in the back, and you help the people in the front. And that is the biggest blessing, because then I can identify people that need a little bit more. I have a gentleman that has 2 adult children. He comes from the Philippines. Things didn't work out for him and his wife. They needed to get divorced. He was with the kids in Canada. She was back in the Philippines, unfortunately taken up with someone else. So that's, you know, kind of the story. I could see he was struggling. Those people, they don't come and line up. I get their details, I contact them, and I say, hey, I've got bread today, I've got lots of veggies, when can you come? They do not stand in line up. 1 minute left. I should have got over my jitters to begin with, right? I'd written tons of notes last night thinking that, oh, I've got to answer where, when, why, all those kinds of things. It's not about where, when, why. It's about community. It's about building. It's about finding connections. We have also gone insofar as going a little bit further here, and I think this is my next slide. Oh, there I am. Not the best look for me, but hey, he just gave me a freezer. That's from the fire department. Here's my lineup in the house, right? It's cold out, so those kids are coming in the house. I'm sorry if you're crammed in, kids, but hug each other. Let's just not have a food rescue baby right now. So I do give away condoms too, by the way. Try to do it all, right? I'm a mom. I know what kids get up to. And so these are also some really amazing volunteers. I won't get into who exactly they are or anything, but because we don't have time. Again, some really involved, engaged people. A lady that takes, don't do that to me. Okay, this lady goes to Pritis and gives this food to people that are seniors, and anything left over goes to the pigs, cows, and chickens. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that. Like, that's a great example of grassroots community development. Our next speakers are Sarah Bruinsma and Brianne Fredel, who are both born and raised in High River, Alberta. Sarah has a background in social work, Brianne in business, and together they combine their skills and expertise to develop the Wild Rose Community Connections Food Security Initiative. It's a very long mouthful. When they started this program, they were green as the kale and broccoli they now rescue, but saw a gap in the community that needed to be filled. Due to their long history of community work, building partnerships came naturally. They have created and managed a number of food-related programs, such as High River Food Rescue, Lunch in a Crunch, High River Partnership Pantry, High River Food Alliance, Harvest High River, and many others. Sarah and Brianne are incredibly passionate about changing the way their community eats. Welcome, Brianne and Sarah.
Thank you. Okay. Do you mind if I sit? I hope you don't mind that I am sitting. I have a bit of vertigo, so standing up just makes it extra tricky. So this way I won't fall over sideways, and it'll be better for everybody. So welcome to our presentation, High River Food Connections, Changing the Way People Eat. So our program started in May 2018, so we haven't even been operating for a year. We operate out of High River, which is a community just south of Calgary with fantastic, resilient people that you may be familiar with. We're so excited to be here to share our journey and our successes. And listening to Mark talk earlier was really resonating with me because I feel like that's how we've been building this program, is just kind of experimenting as we go. And sometimes things stick, sometimes they don't. We just have to rework them, come up with a different solution, and then try something different. So my name is Sarah Bruinsma. My partner is Brianne Fredel. Both of us have been born and raised in High River and lived there our entire lives. We both have 2 kids, and we met 24 years ago driving the beer cart at the golf course. So we have a long history. We still love beer. So how was High River Food Connections born? So Wild Rose Community Connections is an agency that supports families in the foothills. And so they support families by teaching parenting skills. And they noticed that a lot of the families that they were working with were having a hard time meeting their basic needs. And so they put together a grant application for the Social Sustainability Collective to put together a food security initiative. as you can imagine, we were granted that funding, and so we came together. We met with all of the stakeholders in High River who were invested in food-related programs, and then we went outside of our community to see what other communities in Alberta were doing, and met and found all of the cool things that they were doing. Then we came back, looked at our successes of programs that we had already running in High River, and we wanted to fill the gaps. So High River Food Connections really was a program meant to identify all food-related programs in the community and then build on those capacities to aim for a coordinated approach to reduce food insecurity, specifically in High River. So when we got started, we decided we wanted to have some goals in mind. So the first one was looking at tangible ways at reducing food insecurity in High River. So what stemmed out of that was the food rescue, which we will talk about more in a few seconds. The second one was social connectivity. Food always has social aspects that operate around it. So we came up with programs like Soup for the Soul and Harvest High River, which I know those names mean absolutely nothing for you, and Brianne will explain what they mean in a minute. The third goal was education, and to be honest, I feel like this has kind of been one of the most important things that has stemmed from the Food Connections program. And so we look at, teaching people what food insecurity is, teaching them what resources we have in High River. We have a food asset map that we do monthly, talking about which resources there are in High River. We have an education speaker series that we do. We have a Kids in the Kitchen cooking class, which has been really successful. And then we'll talk a little bit later about the education piece with the food rescue as well. And then the fourth goal that kind of stemmed from the food rescue itself is raising environmental consciousness on food waste and reducing the food waste that's hitting the landfill. And that's kind of just come along as one of the benefits of doing the food rescue. So I'll talk about our largest initiative, which is the food rescue. So we literally just started this in October 2018. Volunteers come and they go to the local grocery stores and they rescue any food, like Allanna was talking about, that has imminent best before dates, excess, or for example, right now we have a grocery store that is changing many of its products, and so we get given all of those products that otherwise would be hitting the waste basket. So our volunteers do complete an online AHS food safety certification, and they receive a comprehensive volunteer package, and they do training sessions with somebody who is experienced with food rescue. Volunteers, we actually use an electronic sign-up, which we find incredibly helpful, both for the volunteers and for us, because we always know who's coming. We can tell if there's a new volunteer, and we're able to make sure that somebody seasoned is there to help them. And then every individual that walks into the market we talk to them about food education, in that this is rescued food. You have to watch the best before dates. If you have meat, you need to make sure you're defrosting it in the fridge and cooking it immediately. All of that, and we try to give them as much education around food as we possibly can. We have sheets translated into 4 different languages that we give out, so that we're trying to connect and engage with every person that walks through the door. So High River Food Rescue by the numbers. So we're up to almost 25,000, 24,321 pounds of food since October 2018. What we do is once the volunteers collect the food, we take it to the food bank, and we have been donated a fridge and freezer by Rotary and Western Financial. And then we put the food in there, and we open a market from 1 to 4 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So to date, we've had 44 markets, and over 1,700 people have accessed the market and have been able to take 1 to 2 bags of groceries for free. We don't take any identifying information. All they get from us is a smile and, of course, a food safety lecture. Yeah. So part of our success has been our long-standing relationship with the community. As I said, both Brianne and I have been there forever. So I think that having those partnerships has led to being able to connect, and the growth has just been exponential because of those relationships. And I think that's an important piece. I want to talk next about the High River food rescue successes and challenges. And you'll notice on the last slide, we do a lot of evaluation pieces that Brianne will talk about later. But in a December 2018 survey with 31 respondents, 89% of the people felt that we were changing their diet for the positive. And that is because traditionally in food hampers in High River, you're getting 0% fresh produce. So Allanna spoke to this a little bit, and you're getting a box of usually canned items. At Food Rescue, we're getting things like yogurt, meat, cheese, milk. We don't get a ton of fresh produce, but a lot of those other items. An average rescue, we're looking at probably 600 to 1,000 pounds of food. So a ton of food. Poo. That would be bad. The grocery stores say it's on average about $4 per pound that they're donating. So you can imagine the amount of money that is coming through Food Rescue. So some of our successes, like I said, we are changing the way people are eating in High River, and we hear that all the time. We have also seen a significant increase in food donations to the food bank, and I think that is part of the increased awareness that we are bringing as Food Connections to food insecurity in High River. You know, we're always on Facebook. We have a couple of Facebook pages. We hit the radio up quite often. We do run 11 other programs, so we're consistently out in the community. And the other thing that we've done is we weren't sure how long our funding was going to last us. So every program that we've created, we've built it with a long-standing community partner. Literacy for Life, FCSS, the library, the food bank, so that if we didn't have funding, we would be able to walk away from these programs and they would be able to continue with those long-standing partners. The community support has been absolutely overwhelming as well. We actually have people coming to us now most of the time saying, you know, how can we give, what can we donate, what do you need? Challenges. There's been a few. So it's been a really steep learning curve. We're constantly changing and morphing the program to try to make it better. And so some of the challenges has been the distribution of high-risk foods. So a high-risk food like raw meat. For instance, the grocery stores give us their raw meat. They freeze it on or before the best before date. We take it and we used to be giving it out through our fridge and freezer through the market. We had some concerns because there may be an individual that comes in that has a cognitive challenge or English as a second language, and they may not understand the information that we're giving to them. So we've been creative, and we now put the low-risk meats, so pre-cooked meats or cured meats, in the fridge and freezer for them to take, and then we actually label the raw meats, and we now give them to social workers to give out through the various different agencies that are operating in High River so that they can make an assessment that that's going to be a safe donation. The lineups and congestion. We always want to make sure that we're giving out food in a dignified way, and then we really don't like the lineup. So we've had to get creative with ways to discourage the lineup. So one of the ways that we've done that is not to put out all of the food at the beginning. We now stock the fridge and freezer throughout the time that we're open. So there really is no benefit to being first in line, and we really try to talk about that a lot with the folks that like to be first in line. And as much as Brianne and I look really young, one of our other challenges has been connecting with the youth. Obviously, Facebook is an antiquated way of communication for them, where for us it's how we operate. So I think one of the things that we want to do moving forward is be able to find better strategies to connect with the youth in the community, because we do have programs that are helpful to them as well. So this is what the Help Yourself market looked like prior to our operation. And now this is what it looks like after. You can see we got this gorgeous fridge and freezer donated, and this would be an average day. We are stocked with grocery items, and the fridge and freezer are stocked. We get soup from 3 different restaurants, and they freeze it for us. So we have frozen soup that seniors love. They can just take, and it's a ready-made meal. We do have fresh produce, and bread is always something that is always in overabundance. So I have 3 suggestions before I pass this over to Brianne. I think that if you're interested in creating a food rescue initiative in your community, I would recommend 3 things. The first one is Second Harvest just put out a food waste report that was really interesting, and I think I always, when I approach a store, actually give it to them because it's a really interesting read. So you can just Google that on Second Harvest if you want to get some really interesting statistics and even some higher level policy pieces around food waste and food rescue. The second one is foodrescue.ca, which it has guidelines of what you can rescue, and it gives you timelines and all of those good pieces that you need if you want to start a food rescue operation. And the third one is start small. Even if you're only rescuing from 1 or 2 places, it's still having an impact, and it will grow. We've just been shocked at how the success and how things have just come from this and how much of an impact it has had in our community. So I'm going to pass it over to Brianne.
Perfect. So I will talk to you about one of our programs, Soup for the Soul. If you just want to click it over, Sarah.
Sorry.
This is one of our newer programs, and it's really exciting. It aligns with our social connectivity goal, and it links isolated individuals over a hot meal in good company. It's a referral-based program. We are linked with our local FCSS. We also rely on word of mouth and social advertising. Soup is provided from 2 local businesses in town, and we have had an absolute overwhelming response for this. I was actually just telling Sarah, just last week I was talking to an elderly lady about a referral for this program, and she said, oh, I'd love to be a part of this, would love to have somebody come bring me soup. And she said, oh, can you bring me a hunky man with this? And I said, oh, I'll do my best. And then I said, oh, well, Sarah, if this whole food business doesn't work out, I mean, looks like we know another thing. Another business.
Yeah.
Our next is, along with our educational, which is our speaker series. And that aligns with our educational goals. And we bring in experts on food-related issues and various topics. Just last month, we had a garden planning workshop and 75 ways to save. And the 75 ways to save, he came in and he talked about couponing, how to save on foods, just grocery tips, as well as household utility bills. And we plan on running those monthly. So that was super well attended. We had 60 individuals come to those. And as I said, we plan on continuing those. I got 5 minutes, so I'm going to talk super fast. We have our Lunch at a Crunch and our Partnership Pantry. These 2 programs are offered during the summer months and during school breaks. Our community is very fortunate to have a lunch program that does deliver school lunches to all our schools. Probably most of you have the same things. But Lunch at a Crunch is where you can text or call anonymously, and we let students know where they can pick up a lunch at participating restaurants during the summer months. We did start this last summer, and during school breaks, which is pretty awesome. And then we have our partnership pantry, which is that fridge right there, and the pantry just beside, which is housed at our local library. Just something as simple as that. And we have a volunteer that goes and fills this. And when we started this, we thought that the volunteer would have to go once a week. When we started this last summer, no, every 24 hours that it's used. So it's just, it's been one of those things that's been pretty easy and really successful. Grow Row campaign. This initially came about, like Sarah said, in our community that we had zero to little produce in our hampers that went out to individuals. And one of our neighboring communities had a garden plot that was run completely by volunteers, that all that produce went and was donated to their local food banks. So we thought, hey, let's look at doing that. Unfortunately, at this time, it just wasn't feasible, and even for irrigation, we didn't have the space. So we thought that we would kind of initiate this, and hopefully for this upcoming season, individuals would grow a row and then therefore donate some of their produce to our local food bank and food rescue. So then it would therefore increase the donation of, for our food rescue. And our toiletry campaign. So we are currently running this right now. We are collecting toiletry items to distribute to agencies that work directly with families and individuals. And these are individuals that don't necessarily utilize the food bank. And this started actually when we sat down with a social worker from Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies. And we were just having a conversation about these mums who just sometimes have to make the choice as to whether they're going to purchase food or deodorant, soap, Tide. And, you know, and we thought, oh, here's an opportunity. How do we fill that gap? So this, I mean, everybody has these choices. So that's kind of what we're always looking for, is gaps in our community. So we did decide to run a toiletries campaign, and it has been amazing. And I know even for myself with the Salvation Army, I don't always think toiletries and toilet paper. I think food. So yeah, so we've just been bringing that to the forefront, and it's been quite successful. And other programs that we run, Sarah talked about Kids in the Kitchen. 1 minute. Oh, and another one. So right now we are currently aligned with our Literacy for Life. So 2 years ago they did put 30 book bungalows around the Tanahigh River. And right now we are just piloting 2 food pantries in those book bungalows, which is pretty cool. One's downtown in our core, and then one's at the youth skate park, which is just same thing, simple, volunteer run that they're gonna stock. And also, our Harvest High River. The Tanahigh River, I'm trying to see what I can skip and what I can't skip.
I know.
Our Tanahigh River already has a fresh fruit trees. They already do zucchini, apple trees, mint, that is for our entire community, but nobody knows about it. So we went to them last year and said, hey, can you put this on a map? So right now they're working on GIS mapping all these for our community, and then they're going to put it on their website, and then we're gonna help spread the word. So that's pretty cool. And they also added edible species to their memorial tree lineup in our community. So that is pretty cool. Also, program evaluation. We do want to know how we're doing. So, do I have a stop? We do want to know how we're doing. So we are constantly tracking. So we have been sending out surveys, and we do keep track of who's coming through our door. We want to know, we don't take any identification, but we want to know if they're kids. We want to know if they're youth. We want to know if they're men. We want to know if they're senior. So perhaps there's something better we can do, or we can spread the message in our community. Anyways, thank you for having us. Hopefully you left with something today.
I feel like a meanie.
No, it's fair.
But at the same time, I don't. That's okay. Okay, so we do want time for questions. So you'll time me, Bev?
Oh, questions.
Yeah. So there are time for questions. So does anyone in the audience have anything they want clarified or any questions? Ooh. You went up at the exact same time. I'll go to you first. Missy.
I'm just curious, when you're approaching grocery stores for your programs and requesting food, like what are some of the things that you came across that were like successful in kind of getting them on board, and then some of the sort of challenges that maybe you dealt with.
Is it okay if I speak quickly and I'll pass it to you? So I always bring that second harvest report with me or email it to them so that they can read it first. We had established relationships with all 3 grocery stores in High River because we had done Hockeyville just 6 months prior, and so they had participated a lot. Most of the grocery stores really seem to want to get engaged. It is a little bit of work logistically for them, but their staff are really wanting to find solutions rather than throwing out all that food. So it wasn't hard to get them on board. I have to be honest, for us, it just really wasn't. We are also able to give tax donations because we're not for profit. So that's always a perk as well. And any other things that you would say?
No, I think just same thing. It was super bored. There's such a shift right now. I mean, you see it come out on with CBC. I mean, just with waste, and so everybody is trying to get on board and essentially have zero waste. So it is a pretty. It was a pretty easy transition. Yeah, an easy sell.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're seeing timing and energy are exactly where they need to be right now. So people are more and more open to engaging in these programs. One of the benefits for living in a place for a long time, and I'm sure you ladies would agree, I've lived in Banff all my life. I worked for the Banff Food Bank as a volunteer, so it was an easy and natural step to go and approach the store manager at our Nestor's store. And then when I got beyond my fears, I went and talked to the IGA, and she said, I would love to. So sometimes they're worried about liability issues, and I think once you clarify your position on that, then they're all in. And again, their employees, they more than ever want to make sure that that's not going in the garbage. The other thing I think is really important as communities are delving into this is hopefully we can find a mandate where food waste is not allowed, and that will also force people to find other ways to use things that they would otherwise thrown out, because it's very often very easy to do the throwing out rather than the right thing of putting aside and storing it for pickup.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add one thing quickly?
Yeah, you bet.
That's one of the other things that I did, was take the Charitable Donation of Food Act with me so that they know that they are covered liability-wise. And we also had a really concrete plan, steps for food rescue. We had been AHS inspected, so they knew that we were coming to them with a very firm plan, that the volunteers were going to be trained, and that we were not going to be a hassle for them. And we are smooth when we come in there. We just grab it and go.
Nice. So it's about making it easy for them to say yes, right? We had a question here.
I'm sorry, I actually do have 2 quick questions. The first was building off of this. Do you enter into partnership agreements with the different stores describing your relationship and the commitment? And secondly, if you could go into a bit more detail about the food asset map and what's covered in that, I'd be interested to know some more.
Actually, we don't have any formal agreements with the grocery stores. No, it's just we just show up every Tuesday, Thursday, or whenever they call us, and we come. So do you have anything to add?
I do.
You guys? Yeah?
I don't have an agreement with the grocery store, but I do have an agreement with the library, because we have a little pantry at the library. So there's a very formalized agreement that the library board insisted on, and it's pretty simple. But again, they want to cover their back door, right? So it's worked out well. You just have to kind of take the time to collaborate and make sure that you're working to the same ends. We found with the little pantry, I can fill it up, and I've gone back because I've forgotten to take pictures of the full pantry. 20 minutes later, it's gone. So there's a real energy and need for this in communities.
We do have copies of our food asset map here too, so if you want to come and snag us afterwards, we can. Yeah, we only have a few, so maybe just have a quick peek. We didn't make enough for everybody, but some of our documents we do have here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome work. I just want to thank you so much for sharing. We've been doing a similar project up in the Grand Prairie area, and just as you mentioned, the Good Food Act, which then grocery stores perhaps weren't aware of that. So it's important. It's a it's provincial legislation, which is basically absolves people who donate food, so it's not being sold. So again, they're just knowing that. And as you mentioned, it's very timely. So those of you who have Save On Foods, they've just come on nationally with wanting to donate food. Safeway as well as a very corporate sponsor and partner. So as you mentioned, those are good things. One thing I would just like to add was in that area I found was very interesting from a speaker in Ontario, and he talked about the importance of defining wasting food as opposed to food waste. And it's a bit of a semantic, but I really want to hit home for the people in the room because I felt it was important as I learned about that food is not the adjective, it's the noun. So wasting food should not be a waste. We're not talking about carrot peelings or byproducts. So just talking about wasting food as opposed to food waste, I think is really key and important for people to understand, because we don't have to throw this food out. It's actually good edible food. And as you mentioned, a lot of it's the organics. Sometimes it's just that they get, we've been just recipients of incredibly fresh bananas. They just had too many bananas, and actually what happened was that the skins, we talk about the perfect food, the skins were extremely black and dark, but inside it was a firm, white, pure, perfectly fine banana with no bruising. And we were able to have 4 boxes of those, which then we were able to give, as you mentioned, out to different programmings that normally wouldn't receive fresh food in that way. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and just again encouraging that we look at it as wasting food, not food waste. Thank you.
Good point.
Are there any other questions? Oh, okay. Dory?
Just as a pragmatic person, I'm just wondering about the costs associated with the pickup, things like that.
Not a huge amount of cost because we have volunteers that pick up. And we don't get a lot of fresh produce. I'm not sure if Allanna does, but pretty much everything that we're getting is fridge ready, freezer ready. So we bring it in, we weigh it, and we pop it in the fridge and freezer. That's how easy it is for us. So there's not a ton of costs.
So I think we probably get a little bit of different items than you ladies do. I get tons of produce. So sorting the produce takes a lot of time. Volunteers, again, they're coming into our homes. So I am sacrificing income by having them come in. The area that I'm using is somewhat, if you put a calculation on it, it's about $1,000 a month. Obviously, the electricity and heating costs I incur. The people that pick up what I do, and we do take donations, so when people come through my door, they're encouraged to give a $2 donation if possible. Now, if they don't, that's fine. Nobody says anything, that's fine. But those donations then transfer into other things, such as buying gas cards for the volunteers. I think it's really important to recognize your volunteers, give them some incentive, and so we've done that. We've had a volunteer appreciation dinner that was actually put on corporately by the Banff Lodging Company in Banff, and they offered it up. So I have a lot of corporate support for the program. Transferring those costs to a much needed space that I'm looking at in the future, to rent a place in Banff for the square footage of what I want is about $5,000 a month. So there are limitations. You know, I think it's amazing that you ladies are able to do it through your work. Unfortunately in Banff, I think it's a different situation. I think when people are looking at how they can do this is recognize for your town or municipality that your idea or solution will probably be different than either one of us. And so you need to be able to mold that into what suits you and be creative. Listen to the people that are using the service too, so that you can tailor it more and give the support it needs, because it will grow and change. And there's no looking back once you get started, believe me.
Thank you. And I think with that, that's actually a great summary and a nice tie-in to the earlier presentation today about how we have to be very fluid in how we react and work with community. So thank you so much for that. My big takeaway is the food rescue bit. You know, a secret fact about Janet, I was involved in Basset Hound Rescue, who eat food. But you know, that rescue, we've often think of animals. And so the idea that that philosophy of